Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll get started in just a moment. Some folks are still joining, so we'll just give them a minute to join. Great, thank you so much everyone. Welcome. We'll get started and next slide please. My name is Elvin Bruno Jr. and I am the Director of Campus Organizing here at It's On Us. And I'm also joined by my colleague Sylvia Zenteno, who is the Director of Educational Programs and Training at It's On Us. Sylvia is on today helping us monitor the chat. So if you have anything to put in the chat, feel free to just plug it in there and we will do our best to get to a Q&A at the end if time permits. So thank you so much, Sylvia. Today I'm going to be talking about organizing effectively on campus and how to start and structure your It's On Us chapter. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, thank you. First, we'll talk about the goals of an It's On Us chapter. So generally speaking, some of the goals of an It's On Us chapter are to build a team and teach sexual assault awareness in consent education, bystander education, survivor support, and online dating safety. For those of you who have been involved in our It's On Us campus organizing program over the last 6 years, you already know that we have really taken our movement from just being a pledge into an actual movement in which students can take their actions offline, organize on their campuses to combat sexual violence, and to change the culture on campus. And now in this time period that we're living in of a pandemic, we're also taking that online. And so up until this point, sexual assault awareness and consent education, bystander education, and survivor support have been our three core pillar areas. And in the recent months, we have also added online dating safety to our main work. Another goal of an It's On Us chapter is to host events. And so we have key moments throughout the fall and spring semesters and key dates that we love to organize around on a year-to-year basis. And those include the fall and spring weeks of action, which happen in Domestic Violence Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Months, respectively. We also have the VAWA anniversary every September that we organize around. We also have the It's On Us anniversary, which is on September 19th. Can't believe that we're already turning 6 years old this year. Those are just some of the key moments that we like to organize around every year. But in addition to that, and hosting events, our It's On Us chapters conduct regular programming and training in each of our 4 core pillar areas on a regular basis in order to have the most amount of impact on their campuses and to teach the most amount of peers that they can as possible to be leaders in the fight against sexual violence on campus. And then another goal of our It's On Us chapter is to focus on our mission. And for those of you who don't know, our mission at It's On Us is to build the movement to combat sexual violence on college campuses by bringing everyone into the solution, including young men, in trying to change the culture. Next slide, please. So I just want to talk a little bit about how to start an It's On Us chapter. Every single year, we encourage our chapters that already exist to re-register with the national organization. And this is critical for us because students graduate and chapters leader graduate, and we want to make sure we have the most up-to-date points of contact chapter by chapter to make sure that they are having the first look at our free resources and that we are including them in getting input and feedback through surveys and one-on-one interviews and focus groups to help improve our programming and our curriculum on a regular basis. And then, of course, we're always looking for new chapters who don't already have an existing It's on Us chapter on their campus to apply with us and to become part of the movement. Our movement is always growing and we're always looking for new chapters. So let's talk a little bit about how to start an It's on Us chapter. For one, identify one student to serve as the campus organizer. The title of this position can change based on the preferences of your individual chapter. At some campuses, we see this called the chapter president. However, at larger institution, chapters may be represented by 2 co-presidents or 2 co-campus organizers, but they must apply together. And you'll see on our application form for new chapters, a place to indicate if you're applying with a co-campus organizer. Chapters are often governed by a larger executive board who sets the strategic plan and programming and events calendar for the academic year. It doesn't have to be called an executive board. We've seen it called a core team. We've seen it called other things, but I'll talk a little bit about what that will look like shortly in my presentation. Additionally, when starting an It's on Us chapter, you want to secure an advisor. This isn't something that we require currently, but it's something that we strongly encourage. And an advisor of an It's on Us chapter is ideally an employee of the school. And why that is important is because having an advisor who is an employee of the school is typically helpful because they serve to maintain regular contact and involvement with the officers of the student organizations on campus, in this case, the It's on Us chapter. And the exact time commitment of your advisor is up to you, the chapter and the advisor, based on their capacity and just the needs of the chapter. So advisors should be knowledgeable about the missions, goal, and purpose of the It's on Us chapter while upholding the institution's policies and guidelines. It's really important to look for an advisor who cares about the work that you're doing and has a general understanding. We just want it to be a good fit. The It's on Us advisors are familiar and involved with activities and events of the group, and they can provide resources and support for events and the use of space on campus. Oftentimes there are bureaucratic processes on campuses in order to just use spaces for meetings or for events, and having an advisor can help you navigate these processes. Advisors are also helpful with the administration of the financial affairs of the group. While there are no dues to being an It's on Us chapter and you aren't expected to raise any certain amount of funds for the national organization, for example, if you are an official student group on campus and depending on the size of your campus and the type of budget that is offered to student organizations, sometimes we see that chapters are managing budgets that can be upwards of $10,000. And so an advisor can be very helpful in helping to administer the financial affairs of your group and help you come up with a budget and decide how you're going to spend that money in other fundraising methods as well, how you might raise money for your chapter to host events and to buy t-shirts and to conduct other programming. Some examples of advisors can be professors and adjunct faculty, Title IX coordinators, and more. Additionally, when starting an It's on Us chapter, again, this is not something that we require, but something that we strongly recommend is that you become an official student organization on campus. For the same reasons that I mentioned just now about why it's important to have an employee of the school or faculty who is an advisor, is the same reason why we recommend that It's on Us chapters become an official student organization. So becoming an official student organization typically comes along with greater access to space usage on campus for events and trainings, which are a critical component of your programming as an It's on Us chapter. but official student organizations are also typically provided with funding for their programming. And then additionally, when starting an It's On Us chapter, as I mentioned before, we encourage you to develop early on. This is one of the first things you should do at the beginning of the school year, is to build a bench of chapter leadership to help govern your chapter and oversee different components of the chapter's programming and operations. And again, I'll talk a little bit about what this structure might look like. Slide. So this right here it's so critical that one of your first priorities of starting an It's On Us chapter is to develop a core team or an executive board. Over the years, we have observed the structures of different chapters and have learned that chapters who do not create a core team early on focus their programming mostly around one-off events like pledge drives and tabling around campus or class wraps, for example. And there's not an overall strategic programming plan that coalesces nicely with the event calendar. So you certainly should have events throughout the semester. You certainly should organize around key moments and dates, but we don't want that to be the bulk or the essence of your organizing plan, your programming plan for your It's On Us chapter on campus. So a core team or executive board allows you to identify different people who will serve in chapter leadership roles and be responsible for a certain part of the programming throughout the year. Let's go over an example of a chapter structure that we have seen chapters use in the past and the responsibility of each role. So you can see on your screen right now what that looks like. Again, you don't have to be an expert to make a difference. So each team should consist of a campus organizer or chapter president or campus team leader, CTL, CO. Those are some of the different titles that we've seen to represent the chapter leader. And then you can have 5 core team members in this, or more or less. In this example, you see a prevention captain, a bystander captain, a consent captain, a survivor and ally resources captain, and a digital organizing captain. And I would even advocate to add a online dating safety captain, as it is one of our new pillar areas. Not pictured here, but some other positions that we have seen are membership coordinators to help oversee the recruitment of a chapter, although I should mention, I'd be remiss to not mention that recruitment is everyone's duty as part of the chapter because our movement is always growing. But we also have seen captains to oversee Greek life and athletics and fundraising, for example. So as the campus organizer, your job is to form and lead an It's On Us campus organizing team made up of core team members or an executive board. And you will establish recurring team meetings with your team members and lead them as needed on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Now, obviously, given COVID-19, the way that those recurring team meetings might occur will look different from campus to campus. Of course, one way to do this virtually is using Zoom the way that we are doing right now with this session. And as the campus organizer, you should establish individual goals and motivate your core team members and volunteers to achieve and exceed evolving team metrics for digital engagement, prevention events, consent events, active bystander trainings, and survivor resource referrals each semester. So I've mentioned the core pillar areas that we organize around here at It's On Us, and in each of those 4 pillar areas, we have workshops, train the trainer workshops, which are posted on our website, and also have been a part of our virtual summit series that we have been conducting with NRAPE on campus. And so it's important to establish individual goals around how many students you might want to train in each of those workshops, or how many Facebook likes or group members you want to join your chapter's Facebook group or Slack, for example. As a campus organizer, you will ensure all team members have appropriate resources and training to do their part successfully. And then, of course, conduct outreach to all necessary partner groups on campus. Some of the, the job as the prevention captain, for example, in this structure is to help prevent sexual assault from happening on your campus by identifying already existing prevention programs, holding trainings, and engaging prevention expert speakers and organizations at your campus as part of your chapter. So you can utilize already existing resources like one that we have on our website called climate surveys, useful tools to help colleges and universities in their efforts to reduce and prevent sexual assault, to help educate others on how to prevent sexual assault and prevent sexual assault from happening on your campus in the first place. And working through your administration, excuse me, the Title IX office, the It's On Us campaign on sexual assault prevention training to bring expert speakers to your campus regarding prevention, and speakers can also be fellow students. As the bystander captain in this model, and in this structure pictured, your job is to identify already existing bystander and education programs and resources groups in your area, in the immediate community of your campus or on campus. Hold regular trainings, again, using our Bystander Education 101 workshop, and engage speakers at your campus. On our website, you can also find out you can see our bystander intervention tips resource. As the bystander captain, you would also work with local sexual assault resource groups to hold bystander intervention trainings and work through your administration, the Title IX office, It's On Us, to bring expert speakers to your campus regarding bystander intervention. And again, speakers can also be students as we operate on a peer-to-peer organizing model. Again, the consent captain in this model would do a similar role and have discussions with big or small groups about affirmative consent, and every discussion is important, whether it is with one person or 100 people. And again, that's if it's virtually, as we are living in a different time where the number of folks gathered are limited. And then survivor and ally resources captain, your job is to support survivors and allies by hosting workshops, allowing survivors to safely share their stories and help teach self-care skills to those in need. So part of that includes hosting workshops on how to support survivors if and when they disclose. These workshops should include information on how to create a safe space, language that you should not use, appropriate responses. We have some resources, and so does RAIN on their website for more information related to this. And I would again plug our Survivor Support 101 workshop, which is on our website and has been a part of the virtual summit series. As the survivor and ally resources captain, you'll also invite survivors to share their stories on a speak out panel, ensure that this panel is a safe space for survivors and that media is not present always, unless approved by all speakers and that you have their consent. Something else that we would recommend is to host a survivor safe space event where survivors can share their stories and experiences with other survivors in order to build community, solidarity, and support. And I would just note that allies are welcome only at the direct invite of a survivor for reasons of confidentiality and trust. And then in this model, you also see the digital organizing captain. Their job is to be the liaison between the rest of the team members in your campus through social media while creating compelling content for your campus. They're responsible for running the chapter's Facebook group and page, Twitter, Instagram, and any other social medias that you might have. They're responsible for designing It's On Us event advertisements to post on the social media accounts. The frequency should increase during months when you're hosting events and regular programming and during times that I mentioned before around key moments, like the fall week of action and the spring week of action. The digital organizing captain would be responsible for creating and running the It's On Us volunteer Facebook group, should have a schedule delegating the frequency of social media posts in other folks to help them to create these posts and develop that frequency and the calendar for these posts. So it could be once a week or twice a week, depending on what programming you have planned. Additionally, the digital organizing captain will share the It's On Us national Facebook post on your chapter's page, share theme photos taking on your campus, and relevant events communicated to you by the rest of the team members. A great thing to do on your social media channels for the digital organizing captain is to share information about your campus's resources. So who the Title IX coordinator is, who the victim advocates are, campus counseling services resources, the closest SANE nurses, police, etc. Share upcoming consent trainings, bystander intervention and violence prevention trainings, or survivor and ally resource workshops or panels that your school or It's On Us chapter is hosting, and conducting outreach to all other necessary partner groups. Next slide, please. I want to talk a little bit about the process for how to recruit for a general meeting or a general body event. And I like to think about this in different phases. So phase one, you want to identify, and that's by recruiting. So you build your list of chapter members and event attendees. And then phase two, we talk about is outreach. So you want to mobilize your signups by inviting pledge signers to attend a chapter meeting or event. To get that initial list, obviously you would want to hold a pledge drive on campus or even virtually. We can work with you to create individual pledge forms that are unique to your campus so that you can collect pledges from members of your campus community online. Phase three is confirming. So following up with RSVP'd folks to events 3, 2, and 1 day before a chapter meeting or an event, using any contact information you have for them, cell phone, email, social media, etc. That's phase three. I would just like to bring up the fact that this is all a Mobius, and so that's why you have the different core team members, because your digital organizing captain, for example, will be able to help you do event recruitment from all of the folks who said they were attending an event online or who liked your page or requested to join a group. You can still invite all of those folks to attend offline events, for example. So every position works hand in hand together. And then phase four is the actual execution, in which you would host your chapter meeting or event. And then after every event, and even before that, I also want to make sure that everyone's debriefing at the end of every event. But follow-up is phase five, and you want to thank your event attendees, not only in person, but after the fact by sending out an email or a text, thanking them for coming and scheduling them for future events or chapter meetings. I know this sounds very technical, but we like to call that reshifting, and it's just to ensure the sustainability and health and growth of your chapter. Always include in every follow-up and debrief of an event and ask to come to a future event or meeting. Next slide, please. I want to talk, and also feel free to put in the chat if you have ways that have worked really well for you on how to recruit. But here are just some of the ways that we have seen work really well for some of our chapters around the country. So we'll just talk a little bit about what those look like. But the most common way, and it's actually how It's On Us started, and we have nearly 500,000 people who have done this already, is hosting a pledge drive and asking folks on campus to take the It's On Us pledge to build your recruitment universe by collecting pledge cards with complete contact information of pledge signers. That's a resource on our website. If you also go to our online store, you can purchase packs of printed pledge cards, which on one side have all of the information to collect of the contact information to collect from the pledge signer. And then there's a perforation in which you can tear off, in which you can put your chapter's social media channels on it and the meeting time and place, so that you see them at an event and you have them fill out the pledge card, and then you get to keep their contact information so that you have your database of folks to recruit from for future events, and then they have the information of where the event is going to be and when, and how to follow you on social media. Another tactic is recruitment calls and texts. So we recruit top prospect chapter members or event attendees by calling or texting them after the event with options for ways to stay involved. And that can happen again through the contact information that you collect from the pledge cards. And additionally, at every single event, you always want to have a sign-in sheet, and you can use the sign-in sheet also to call or text them after the event with options for ways to stay involved. One-on-ones are something that are a little bit tricky, but still important for tactic for recruiting. So you want to hold one-on-one meetings with prospective leaders and volunteers to build a connection and hear about what they are interested in. I always use my one-on-one meetings as an opportunity to ask a general chapter member to take their leadership within the chapter to the next level. So if you notice that you have someone who is constantly coming to your chapter's meetings and events and has a lot of initiative, and they seem like they would be just perfect for one of the core team member roles, then sit down with them after an event and talk to them about how you see them plugging into the overall leadership structure of the chapter, and making that hard ask of them, asking them, can you host our next pledge drive and find the location on campus and identify the 5 or 6 volunteers to sit at the table and help us clipboard for that pledge drive. That's a great way to test their capacity as a potential leader within the chapter. Another tactic or way to recruit is to come up with creative organizing asks. So gather supporters to re-engage and recommit throughout the year. And we've been trying to do that internally here at It's On Us, as you can see by hosting virtual roundtables and town halls. We even hosted a virtual town hall on Title IX just a couple months ago on Title IX that had over 1,000 students participate in it. We also come up with creative organizing asks around our BAWA anniversary and the It's On Us anniversary. Last year, we actually asked our chapters to host It's On Us birthday parties, and we saw on social media tons of cool It's On Us birthday cakes. And these are a great way to bring new members in, talk about the great work that your chapter has done over the years on campus, organizing on campus, come with facts and figures about the impact that your chapter has had. We have trained 7,000 students over the last 4 years. We have collected X number of pledges on our campus over the last 5 years, for example. So coming up with creative organizing asks around these key moments and dates is always important. Creating a core team, again, retaining chapter members or event attendees who complete an action by asking them to join your core team or subcommittee, tapping into existing networks by reaching out to student organizations, resident halls, or student groups you have contacts with. There is no shortage of ways to recruit from existing groups on campus, be it sports teams or other student organizations. So make sure you're tapping into your existing networks and asking your members which other networks they are a part of on campus outside of just the It's On Us chapter. And then utilizing digital tools by creating social media channels for your chapter. As I previously mentioned, so that people in your community can easily stay up to date on events, trainings, and fundraisers you host. Next slide. Next slide, please. Asking is empowering people to take action. The next slide, please. We're going to talk a little bit about the hard ask. Next slide. So we'll talk a little bit about components of every hard ask and what to say. So the hard ask is about recruiting people to events or to your chapter by giving them options, being clear and specific. And so you always want to have an introduction by establishing connection and the purpose of the conversation. And then provide an update. Give your ask context. What is the chapter up to? Since, here's an example. So since we got back to school in September, our chapter has been hosting weekly bystander intervention trainings at the student union at 5 p.m. on Tuesday nights. Urgency, why now and not next month? You want to create urgency of the moment. So it's important that you come to this training and get trained on how to be an active bystander now and not later, because you can help prevent a sexual assault from happening on our campus. Challenge, how many attendees do we need at our bystander intervention training? We could really use you at our bystander intervention training because we would like to have 20 people trained and we currently have 17 people signed up. Solution, getting trained is always the solution. Be specific, direct, and action-oriented with your ask. Ask for a commitment to a specific action at a specific time in a specific place. Next slide, please. Oh, I love this picture. This is actually from one of our fall weeks of action 2 years ago. So you want to make sure you're making the right ask. Before you make your hard ask, it is important to know what and how much to ask for. Know your audience, read the room. If you're having a one-on-one with a potential leader of your chapter after they've attended 7 events and they hate talking to people, but they're so good with computers and you think they would be great to enter your pledges into a spreadsheet, for example, and to be the data captain. But you know they don't like talking to people. Make sure you're not asking them to be the captain for talking in front of classes, for example. Approach by asking for the highest priority item first. So volunteer shifts at an event to test them for a core team leadership role, or attending an event or a training to hit your event attendance goal, attending a chapter meeting, or asking them for a one-on-one. Next slide. So unfortunately, we're not in person or able to practice the script out loud, but I'll just walk through it with you. So here's the introduction component. Hi, my name is Elvin. I'm the campus organizer for the It's On Us chapter at the University of Dallas. I'm reaching out today because we are hosting a pledge drive on March 3rd at 6 p.m. and then give the update. Our chapter is trying to make all first-year students are trained in this area, modified as needed, obviously, to make relevant. So I mentioned a pledge drive, but in the first sentence, I could have said a bystander intervention training. And we'll stick with that, actually. Create the urgency. So 20 to 25% of women in college will be sexually assaulted before graduation. Challenge. We need 25 students to attend this bystander intervention training to be on track with our goal. Again, modify as necessary. And then here's the solution. Being trained as an active bystander will ensure you have the skills necessary to identify and intervene in potentially dangerous situations. And then here's where you become very specific, direct, and action-oriented about the commitment. Can we count on you to attend our bystander intervention training on March 3rd or March 4th? I would just note, or is the magic word. Providing alternative options increases the likelihood of getting someone to attend events. So choose your language carefully because we all have busy lives. So your first ask might not always be the best ask for someone, and giving them options will help increase your impact. Next slide, please. Now we're going to talk a little bit about volunteer recruitment and joining a chapter. How to absorb new members to join the chapter or become a part of the core team. So step 1, ask them to sign up to volunteer at an event or attend a chapter meeting. Step 2, recommend that they complete an event volunteer shift or attend a chapter meeting. Step 3, ask them if they would like to become a regular chapter member or event attendee. And then step 4, ask them to join the chapter. Next slide. Step 1, sign up for an event / member recruitment best practices. Map it out. How does this one volunteer shift, you always want to be thinking about how does one volunteer shift or event attendee play a part in the overarching strategy of your chapter. Again, this is why it's important not to just plan your programming around key dates or one-off events. And while you are having events, you want to make sure that there's an overarching strategy and that every event attendee is going to help you reach your overall goal. Set clear goals and expectations. So example, one training that takes about 2 hours. Know the rule of halves. So if you host a pledge drive, you collect 200 pledges, and then you want to you call through all those people and invite them to a bystander intervention training. You get 47 people to say they will be there at the bystander intervention training, or 48 people, and then you, the night before and 2 nights before and 3 nights before, call these people, text them, say, just want to remind you about the training, just want to see if you're still going to be there. Some people say, oh, this came up, I can no longer attend, or they say they're still coming, but on the day of, they don't actually show up. So I would anticipate a 50% flake rate. Always, that's pretty much a general standard. That number can certainly go down depending on how strong your confirmation process is. And that's why you want to start it 3 days out from an event, so that you are also reshifting people who say they cannot attend an event any longer. Then you are asking them, oh, you're saying, oh, that's okay, we understand that you can no longer make it. We're also hosting a training next week at the same time. Can we count on you to be there? That reduces your flake rate and helps you maintain your impact. Again, always be closing. So confirm, confirm, confirm. That's what I was just talking about with the 3, 2, and 1 day out confirmation calls and text messages and follow-ups to all of the folks that you schedule for an event. Again, we talked about this before as part of the debrief, but show your chapter members and event attendees you appreciate them, and you can always use the thank you and debriefing process to schedule them for future events. Next slide. So step 2, complete a volunteer shift, get volunteers in the door. We talked about the confirmation process, which is step 1 already. We also talked about rescheduling event attendee and chapter member before they leave the event by asking them when they are next available, and then having a sign-up sheet right then and there with all of your future events printed out so that they can circle their availability, and you can track it however you track your event attendees, and make sure that you are tracking the data, step 3, so that you can keep track of your progress towards your goal. Again, that goes back to having an overall strategy and programming plan in place for the semester. Step 3 is getting folks to become a regular chapter member. So some of the volunteer retention best practices. Always use your volunteers and chapter members' time efficiently. Be prepared for members and volunteers. Have work ready. Make sure, again, you're reading the room and you know your audience and you know what folks' capacity are and what their skill set is by having conversations with them and seeing what they like and what they're good at, so that when they show up to an event or to a training or to a chapter meeting, that you're asking them for things that meet their skill set and that you're keeping them busy by having work ready. Check in during the shift or the training or the meeting and work along with them. Work alongside your members and volunteers and model best practices. So you want to be the example for every new and existing chapter member or event attendee that comes through your door. Debrief after the shift. Again, we talked about this, and this can be done as a group with everyone that attends an event or on an individual basis. By taking 5 minutes to ask how it went and talk about the challenges and solutions. I love to do this after every event because it just helps you become better when you're having future events. Always start with the challenges and solutions, and whenever you have a future event, you can refer back to this. Train your best volunteers to be leaders. Develop them by always training them, by debriefing and talking and delegating. The more you can delegate to a chapter member or a core team member or a volunteer who attends an event, the more you can develop them as a leader. And again, thank them for their work and sign up for the next shift. Next slide. Here are some of the reasons, and I'm sure you can think of many more, but these are some of the just basic reasons why event attendees or chapter members do not return. One, they don't feel that it's worth their time. No one asks them, which again, why is incredible. It's critical to debrief, to have a schedule of events, to follow up with them afterwards. They might be uncomfortable doing what you have asked them to do. This is why it's important to get to know them, have a conversation with them, understand their skill set and what they're good at, so that they always come back. You have asked them to do something you wouldn't do yourself. That's an obvious one. They feel overwhelmed by the task and goals. Again, we all have busy lives. We're college students, and we are living in a weird time with a pandemic and multiple pandemics, and they might just feel overwhelmed by tasks and goals. So be mindful of that in order to maintain the sustainability of your chapter. The meeting or event environment might be unwelcoming. So always make sure you're creating an inclusive and welcoming event environment. And no one recognizes their contribution. So always show your appreciation and recognize the contribution of your chapter members and event attendees. Next slide, please. So getting folks to join a team, some important things: respect, empower, and include. You want to do this by building and fostering relationships. So event attendees and chapter members will return again and again because of the personal relationship you build with them and that they build with other event attendees and chapter members. There is a place for everyone in your organization, so you want to find every chapter member's role and every attendee's role by meeting folks where they are and helping them to find that role. Empower the event attendee and chapter member and make the event attendee or chapter member feel valued and empowered to take on the responsibilities within the team structure. Next slide, please. Why do people volunteer? Why do they join a chapter, an It's On Us chapter? Well, for one, they want to be a part of a community. When folks are starting their first year in college, they're going to look for that community. And so they will volunteer at different events with different student organizations to find where they belong. They want to participate in the movement to end sexual violence. Of course, we're all here because we believe in a world where everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from, has access to an education free from all forms of violence. So that's why a lot of people get involved. We need to be intentional about matching our opportunities to people's interests. And it all comes down to building relationships. Again, this is how you're going to get folks to join and to stay. Next slide, please. So I'm going to open it up to questions in just a minute, but before I do that, I want to just talk about some of the key takeaways. There are many ways to recruit for events and chapter members, but the top 4 are online, especially now, through social media, within your own personal network, face-to-face, and over the phone. And again, especially texting, because we're organizing as college students. Some components of the hard ask include introduction, update, urgency, challenge, solution, specific, direct, and action-oriented. Remember, the language we use in our ask directly impacts the answers we get back. And don't forget to follow up in everything that you do by thanking volunteers, debriefing with them, and scheduling them for future events. Next slide. Oh, great. So that actually takes us to the end of our presentation today, and I'll now open it up to any question that folks have. Please feel free to just place them in the chat. Someone asked if we will be receiving these slides within, yes, this will be posted on our website, and I'll put the link in the chat. The whole session is being recorded, so we will post it on our website with the recording. Someone said, I know you touched on this, but do you have any tips on recruiting new members? This will be the first semester of this club at my school. For one, I would create social media pages for your chapter on each of the main platforms and invite people to like those pages from your personal networks, especially during this time where we're organizing virtually. For two, we've seen students host pledge drives, which are the great first step to collecting contact information so that you can recruit those folks who signed the pledge to come to future chapter and club meetings. So we've seen great success with that in building your initial database. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions via email. And again, this session has been recorded and will be posted on our website later today. Thank you so much and have a great day.